As soon as the writers settled, we got the waiver, and I jumped in my truck with my my Airstream, and I drove across the country to St. Louis, and I put in the audio version of his book. And that did change everything because I heard him tell the story of his book. And I just started cracking up the whole way to St. Louis. I was laughing. And as soon as I landed there, I called up the writer, Greg Porteous, and I said, we have to adjust the beginning to make it funny.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a victim of a tragic accident goes on to inspire millions in director Sean McNamara's biographical drama, Soul on Fire. The film tells the true story of John O'Leary, who survived a tragic accident as a young boy that left him severely burned all over his body. Recovering from his injury, he goes on to become a motivational speaker and inspire millions of people to make the world a better place. In addition to Soul on Fire, McNamara's other directorial credits include the feature films Reagan and The King's Daughter, the movies for television Love in Paradise and Just in Time for Christmas, and episodes of the series That's So Raven and The Secret World of Alex Mack. He is a 4-time DGA Award nominee for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Children's Programs for 2006's The Cutting Edge, Going for the Gold, 2003's The Even Stevens Movie, and the Even Stevens episodes Very Scary Story in 2001 and Easy Way in 2000. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, McNamara spoke with director Dean Alioto about filming Soul on Fire. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
I did a little bit of research, which wasn't very hard because I've known this man, Sean, for 35 years. We worked together on Totally Hidden Video for Fox. And I remember the first time I met you because you'd replaced this the senior director that was there. And I remember I was standing next to you behind the Video Village, and I was standing a little too close. And Sean has more energy than anyone I know. And so you who have worked with him know this. And his arms went out, and I got smacked in the face. I didn't have a bloody nose, but it was pretty close. And he looked at me and goes, "I'm so sorry." And then the next thing you said was, "You can't get so close because I'm just going to be doing this." And I remember going, I won't make that mistake again. First of all, you've done 51 films. You've done 77 productions, TV series, and probably more, but I counted 51. And so I'm just curious, right out of the gate, what keeps you going? Is there a thread that keeps you going, a creative tether? What is it?
Look, we all know if we're here, this is the Directors Guild of America. Directing is probably the best job in the world. There's just nothing like it. So that just kind of keeps me going. And then I love making inspirational movies and aspirational movies. And I didn't know the number was that high. That does sound like a lot. I'm old. So, but I think I like making these types of movies, Soul Surfer, Miracle Season, films that like lift your spirit, I guess.
I'm going to be shotgunning you in the face right now with questions. So just know that one of them, this is your second Soul movie. You got Soul Surfer. This is Soul on Fire. Now you can embrace this and say, yes, I meant to do that. Or you can say, no, that was just happenstance. So in every single scene, I clocked this. I watched this film last night, and then this is my second time seeing it. And which is always, you have to see it twice to start, just to begin to take this in. There is the color red in every scene, including in his college dorm. There's a stop sign. At one point, he and his father are walking out. They're getting a hot dog. And what's the name of the hot dog vendor? red. And then a woman walks by, an extra in a red coat. And I'm going, okay, I need to ask, is this representing fire? Because his truck is also red. The dumpster of the house that he's building also is red.
I wish I could say it's the most creative choice I ever made, but it just is happenstance. It's the Cardinals wore red, and I didn't even think about that.
I was getting to that.
Wow. I wish, but from now on, I'm going to say, red was the color I chose.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
And whoever's doing this podcast, just edit to what he just said. Red is the color he chose.
That's right.
So before we get full on into the film, I do want to talk about a collaborator of yours that you've had nearly as long as I've known you, which is David Brookwell. And so I saw his credit. He's a producer with you. You guys have done tons of stuff, and he's also the line producer. How does that relationship, how early does that relationship begin with movies and, productions, prep, and even selling the film, setting them up?
Absolutely. Well, I think, is David here? Did he finally make it? Raise your hand if you're here. Yes, he's waving in the back. David is everything. We've been in business, Brookwell McNamara Entertainment, for like 30 years, I guess now. And he always says that I set fires and he runs around with a fire extinguisher and kind of puts them out. But he is my definite collaborator in that he's also my second unit director, and he has shot a lot. He shot a lot of this film. The really good scenes are the ones he shot, like at the cemetery and at the prison. So I'm always like really thankful because David and I we work together on all those films you're talking about. We have done together over the years. So he is my huge collaborator. I think there's tons of our collaborators out here today as I got in here. So I'll say hi to all of them as we go.
And David, you are in the guild, right? Yes. Okay.
David's in the guild. Yes.
Okay. One last kind of preamble to getting into the film. So when I watched this film last night, I had a flashback. I had a brief period at 7 years old where I was a kleptomaniac. Not a kleptomaniac, a pyromaniac. Wow. And it lasted all of probably a few days, if that. But I wasn't very good at it. Like I set a fire in the street. This is in Sacramento. And it was really, really small. And it was in the middle of the street, not in the woods or anything. And then I went and I ratted myself out. I told my father, I thought I was really clever, if you see a fire out there, that's not me. I had nothing to do with that. And he didn't say, I love you, son. And, whatever you do, you're just going to have to deal with that. No, it was a different reaction. But the theme here in this film, is it's kind of looking at, God, there's a few themes, but one of them is what's really important. And what we think is important isn't. And it's constantly hit upon and reiterated upon. I think one of the last examples was with the truck. And when he calls and says, hey, Dad, your car got smashed, and all he cares about is, are you safe? Are you okay? That is not, no one has a cornerstone on that lesson, but it is the hardest one to get. So was that, when you approached this, what were some of the themes that you went, oh, I want to get into this, and I think that this is something that will carry it? I mean, from the script to post, was that something that you're conscious of, these themes that you had running through?
Well, I think the biggest theme, the thing that struck me the most is when, it was 100% chance he was going to die. And the mother said, do you want to, he goes, I want to live. And that scene made me cry every time I read it. I remember, and I started like breaking down and crying when I met John O'Leary in Burbank over here for the first time. And he's a hugger. He's filled with love. I mean, his dad, everything in there is real. Denny O'Leary did say, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's a kind of interesting phrase, but it's real. So we made sure that was in the story. And, but that theme of love that that is everywhere in his life and his with his father, with his family, with his kids. That is something I want to just put more of there. Look, I love every type of film that is made. Like I like shoot 'em up movies, I like thrillers, love stories, horror stories, every type of film. But the types that I like to make try to like raise the human spirit. And it's not for everybody, but there is. I grew up like liking films like Chicken Soup for the Soul or reading those books. So I just kind of approach everything like that. Like there's got to be something in this movie that makes us, you know, by the end of it, like go, there's a better way to live our life, especially right now.
This movie definitely could have been guilty of being maudlin. And I felt like there were moments where it was going, okay, here's that big moment. And then you had some levity. You had humor, like when he's courting the actress Maisie, I believe.
Maisie McLean, who played Beth, yeah.
Yeah. She like completely undercuts it by making a joke, and it felt real. It felt like, yes, these are the touchstone moments that are going to happen for this character's development. But I felt like you were able to sustain it in a way that felt like the story was coming through, and it wasn't like we were having our heartstrings played.
Well, I definitely try to do humorous moments all through it because John O'Leary, he is that guy. He is joyful. He is funny. And I mean, I've made films where, you know, Bethany Hamilton in Soul Surfer, where she loses her arm and you're really worried about losing the audience too much in a hospital, too medical. And I want people to get past that as quickly as possible and get to the part where they're on the mend, if you will, and healing. And this was kind of interesting because it kept jumping through time. I hope it wasn't too confusing, some of the jumps we made, but you know, we had them at like 9 years old and in college and then as an adult. So that was an interesting thing to play with. But ultimately, I like themes of overcoming incredible odds, coming back from a huge loss, and doing something with your life. You know, we all have tough times waking up in the morning. Just it's hard. Life is hard. But when you look at characters like John O'Leary, who like couldn't do anything, and he came back, was going to do construction, and now has made a life out of being a public speaker and an inspirational speaker. I actually saw him. When I was doing my research at the beginning, I went to a Wounded Warrior session that he did, and there were like 50 men with missing arms and legs, and to watch him take them, talk about feeling like this is going to be maudlin, and making them, they cried a little bit, but then it was pure joy and clapping, and he's just an amazing human. So I just look for films that have themes with amazing humans doing amazing human things, and that I miss the days of films like where there were humans. Like I love Marvel films, but sometimes when there's like a fox or a raccoon that's the star of it, it's hard to completely get behind the character, but I try to get behind human characters.
And John also has a cameo in it. He's given himself the diploma.
Yes, that's right. That was John O'Leary. I had to hide his hands and shoot him from the side that you couldn't see the burn marks as much.
I want to talk about some of your key crew. Starting out of the gate, you've got Mark Isham. And the first note at the beginning, as we're going, it's a crane shot coming down. It sets the tone. At that moment, I'm there. I'm feeling like, okay, this is going to be something that's going to be transcending. And so I'm buckled up. It's kind of like Mark's music was buckling us up, going, get ready, and it was a good thing.
Yeah, Mark Isham, this is the first film I've done with him, and he's extraordinary. He just he recorded up in his place up in Calabasas, and I think we had one day in Burbank at Evergreen Studios. But since it was the first time I'd worked with him, I was like, okay, what's this going to be like? And he had this guitar thing going, and his son played guitar, and he's just an incredible composer, and just it just helps us. I think composing is one of the most important part. It tells us how to feel. I always go. The script tells us what to think, how to, but how to feel about the characters is that music. And Mark is just incredible.
Mark did Crash, tons of films. His range is insane. So let's talk about the actual script. When you first got the script, well, first of all, did you start with a book, or did the script, was that already written? And how did you work with the screenwriter?
It's a great question. I read the screenplay, and I thought it was fantastic. And I took a meeting with John O'Leary here, and he gave me a signed copy of the book, which is really nice, although my dog just ate it. So this beautiful thing that he wrote to me is all gone. So
your dog liked it.
But the best was, as you guys remember, we were just coming out of COVID, and we had the money in the bank to go. And then we had the writer's strike and the actor's strike. And we thought we were going to get a waiver, and we did all this stuff. But at any rate, we waited like 6 months. I mean, it took forever for that to happen. So as soon as the writers settled, we got the waiver, and I jumped in my truck with my my Airstream, because that's what I go in. And I drove across the country to St. Louis, and I put in the audio version of his book. And that did change everything, because I heard him tell the story of his book. So I read the script. I listened, I read the book, but then I listened to how he said it. And I just started cracking up the whole way to St. Louis. I was laughing. And as soon as I landed there, I called up the writer, Greg Porrias, and I said, we have to adjust the beginning to make it funny. Like, he has to have these lines about his brothers and his sisters, because it was humorous. And I go, that will help us get over the fact that a little boy is burning. I mean, that was very scary to try to, how do we show this and not turn off the audience or turn off the family audience in the first 5 minutes? So it was listening to his book on tape or DVD or whatever it was. And it made me laugh so hard, because he is so humorous. And it's what he does when he does his speeches. He just makes the whole crowd laugh. So we tried to capture that.
Yeah, he's a great character, a real life character. So once you have that dialed in, if you can just talk about your casting, because it was very important. I thought the casting of the child was like dead on. It really looked like him. The older version of John. So who was cast first? How did your cast come together?
So I'll go. I don't want to forget the crew members. Bob Hayes was our DP, which was incredible. Greg Hobson was our editor. They may be here tonight. Scott Coulter was our visual effects supervisor, producer. So they had a huge impact on me just making this film, because it's for me, it's a collaborative art. We just all go. Did I miss anybody that's here? Just yell out your name. Patrick, the sound. Oh my gosh, there you are, Patrick. It sounded pretty good in here. It's a 5.1 mix, and I'm looking at all those speakers in the ceiling going, ooh, next one, Dolby Atmos. Let's do it. Okay, casting. Oh man, let me think about that.
We'll get to post after that. So right now you're casting in order of how the production goes.
Okay, all right. Casting. It's always, when we do these types of films, it was just under $10 million was the budget going in. So one of the things we have to do is find star talent that helps us. So I found out my agency just got William H. Macy, and for looking for Jack Buck, and somehow we got the script to him and he responded. So I think he was one of the first ones in. And then John Corbett, who tells a funny story, because I think we waited till 2 weeks before we started. So I said, hey, he would work with me on a film called Raise Your Voice back in 2004. So I call him up and I go, hey, you want to do this film? And he goes, oh, who fell out? It's one of those questions. But getting those two as our stars helped to make sure that we could sell it, because we made this independently. Sony came in afterwards and picked it up. So that is a big deal. I went to see Jesus Revolution. And basically, most of the casting was done in that. Joel was there, Devon Franklin was there, and I just said, I just want these guys. So I pulled them over from that movie, and Joel Courtney he's just incredible. And he got John O'Leary just down, just the way he used his voice. He was incredible. Stephanie Stosak, who played the mom, that came from John O'Leary. John O'Leary met her husband at one of his events, and he said to his wife, you should see this guy. They became friends, and then they introduced her to me. And then Macy McLean she's the beautiful young Beth. She was, I think, cast and put her part on tape. And
Devon
Franklin.
Yeah.
Yes, he played Nurse Roy. Yeah. And that was odd, because he's a big executive from Sony and he just started becoming an actor. So this is like his second role. He was in Jesus Revolution as the reporter. And so he came and became Nurse Roy for me on this.
I'd like to see it go the other way around, where the actor becomes the executive.
Other way.
Yeah.
And he's great. He's going to be a huge star, I think, someday.
It's interesting how films come together. At some point, it's kind of like Dr. Frankenstein. At some point, the lightning strikes, and you don't know when. Is it going to be next week? Or we're going to get the funding, or we're going to get the actors. But how everyone comes together for that big troupe, that big party. So talk to me about production, and talk to me about your DGA team, who were all the. You had to rifle through this. We can talk about maybe how many days you had to shoot this.
Sure. Well, we had Greg Zakowski was our AD, and our UPMs are here. David's one of them. And who else is here? Just raise your hand. Just yell out your name because I can't see you. Great. Well, you're here. Oh, this is great. You guys should sit up at the front. An incredible DGA team. I mean, exactly.
You said you're 3 days over with this interview.
I'm a big fan of 10-hour days because I just find the crew does great. So we shot this in 19 days and they were 10-hour days. I mean, most of them were 10-hour days. So, yeah. And the DGA team is what gets me there. That and Bob Hayes. So Greg and Bob, we push really hard to always finish in 10 hours so that we can. I just find that by Friday nights, then everybody has 10 times more energy when they can go home, have dinner with their families, or go to the movies in a weeknight. It makes all the difference in the world.
So Bob Hayes was your DP.
Yes, photography.
So when you started out, did you shot list? What did you do? Because you got 19 days. How are you ramping up and prepping for that?
I have the same process every time. At some point, myself, the DP, and the AD, we go out to every location and we do a shot sheet. We're basically figuring out shot per shot how we're going to do it. So there's no surprises. And then every night before we shoot, I type up that shot sheet so that we have it for that day. So I do that so that the crew kind of knows what we're doing. And then I rehearse the actors. I'm a big fan of like having a table read and then at least 2 or 3 days of rehearsal with every scene I go through with the actors, because it's really when I know we're going to have to move quickly, I don't want to have that many discussions on set. I want to have them all beforehand. And so we really dig deep like theater. We turn the page, we talk about it. I generally, if the writer can be, they'll be in the room there and they'll take notes and we'll make adjustments. So we'll kind of do it sitting down at a table on one day. And then the next 2 days we get a meeting room at the hotel or wherever. And I put it on its feet. I literally pull chairs together to be a car, 3 chairs together to be a couch. And we literally physicalize every scene before we get to the set.
Interesting. So when you're out there and you're shooting, were there any scenes or any situations that changed? Like, what was the biggest surprise when you were out there actually doing the logistics of being on the set with the actors and blocking everything?
Well, one of the surprises was on day one, we still didn't have the special hands. We had them made up in Canada and they got caught up in some sort of a customs thing. I have no idea. So all of a sudden we're like going, how are we going to shoot? He's in every scene today. I can hide it somehow, but we got one of those things that you see in commercials where we put the real John O'Leary's hands in and we made quick little molds and put them on sticks like popsicles and had our actor hold on to those. So that was a big surprise. Because the key is you just figure out how to do it no matter what. I did a film a long time ago, and the lead actor was sick for the first half of the day. He came in at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So I went to the producer, what day are we going to pick this up? Are we going to do it on a Saturday or whatever? And he goes, make your day. And I went, oh, that's funny because we just lost 7 hours. And he goes, you have to make your day. And so I sat down with my DP and we went shot by shot. We figured it out and we made the day. So I've been, and I've done a lot of television of those productions. There was a lot of television. So I like to move very quickly because we have rehearsed. We know the shots we're doing. I leave room open for, creativity on the day, but I like to move super quick. William Hurt called me. He said, I direct like a Mack truck. I just blow through everything. And by the way, did you notice that good looking Mack truck driver in the movie? I don't know if anybody noticed.
2 shots. You got 2 shots.
Well, my hand too. That was every film.
I want to ask you about that. So you've been in every single film. And I know we've talked about this before, and I'm curious if it's changed. You put yourself in your movies because
nobody else will hire me. You should hire me. Please put me in one of your movies.
Put me in one of your movies and I'll put you in one of mine. So as you're you're filming and you're tracking this story. Did you have John O'Leary there? Was he there on set?
John O'Leary was there every single day, and it was fantastic. He just brought energy and love and hugs to everybody. And he is that guy. He's just the nicest man. And it was fun to have him there because we'd have to look at him. How do you do this? How can we do that? And he would help. In fact, every hand shot that you saw are actually his hands. He would sit in and put the shirt on and play the piano for us. And even when he was a little kid, those were his hands. So he did all of that himself.
Oh, wow. How was that for Joel? How was on screen John able to have the actor there? Because I know that when they were filming the Bruce Springsteen biopic, that Jeremy at one point pulled the director aside and said, hey, or was that the director, or he went up to Bruce? I think he went up to Bruce himself and said, hey, I need to own this part. I need to not have you there double checking every single thing because I feel like this isn't you exactly that I'm doing. So was there ever a moment like that, or did he give him the space so that he could just own his own John O'Leary version?
He totally gave the space. So it was, he was there, but they would have their meetings and talk about it. Like Joel got his voice down. And I'm a big fan of also, if the person is living, that they meet and they talk and they get the character better. In fact, Denny O'Leary, the father, was there and he met with, John. So like they were all there except Jack Buck wasn't there. So William H. Macy had to figure that out from old videos and so forth. But I love it when the actors can talk to the real people. And in fact, we shot this the house that we shot in the movie is their actual house. And one interesting thing, I didn't light one match in that whole movie. That's all been put in post. And it was because I was so afraid to light a match in the real house that not only burned down when he burned it down, it actually 10 years later, they burned it down again. I have no idea what happened the second time, but that house got burned down twice. So I said, when we shot this movie, there was absolutely no fire could be real. The kid just pretend he lit the match and pretended that it was fire. And we put all that in post.
All right. I saw that twice and I didn't track that. So that's really impressive. We're talking about when he's in the garage?
When he's in the garage, when he's running through the house, all of that. My point is the mother and father, Susan and Denny O'Leary, it was their house. They were there. They never left. Like, how we usually put them off in a hotel,
right?
They were there every single day, just sitting, and they loved it. They'd be cooking dinner for us and just sitting on this. They had such joy watching us use their house. And we had to take their house and shoot all the modern stuff. And then we had to bring it back to the 1987 look and then bring it, we had to put it back together because I said, are you sure you want us to shoot here? They're like, why not just shoot here?
Wow. So
I was like, okay.
So before we run out of time, I want to talk about post because you did have effects here. A lot of fire effects. Did Greg?
Greg cut it and Scott Coulter did all the effects. So he's out there too.
Okay. Was the editing
his son
happening as you were shooting or was it collected at the end and then you sit down? How do you work with your editor? What's that collaboration like?
First of all, I get the best in the world. Greg Hobson is another one who I've been working with for what is it, Greg? 30 years? At least, yeah. So definitely when we're shooting, day one we shoot, and hopefully by take two we start seeing the dailies, and they're cutting as soon as they can because I want to see if it's working. Like when you shoot it shot by shot, it's hard to tell sometime. I mean, you kind of feel it, but when I see a rough cut of a scene, I go, okay, this is working. Do I turn up the volume on this? Do I turn down the volume on that? And working with how the actors are doing it. So very quickly, within like the first week, he's getting a scene or two that I can look at. And then I also use it to kind of quell everybody's fears on the set. I'll show a scene to a couple of people to say, look, it's working. Everything is going well. But I like to be cutting simultaneously so that I know that what we're doing, especially when we're moving that fast, that we're getting everything.
Yeah. So what was the schedule like for the post on this then, if you're doing it as you're cutting? Like once you wrapped, when did you have your first cut and when did you have your last cut?
So I think the editor's cut was the during the shoot and a couple of weeks afterwards. And then thanks to the DGA, I got my 10 weeks. And I like to do things at week 4. I screen it for about like 20 or 30 people. I'll put it in just like a little room and screen it. Hopefully people who don't know me or don't know the work. but I get a lot of great notes from that. And then at week 8, I'll screen it again for maybe 50 or 60 people. And, I'm this close to the script. I have no separation from it. I know things are in, what's out. But when you show it to real people, do they get emotional? Do they cry at the right parts? Do they laugh? Did we hit that joke? Did we miss it? And that helps me. So by the time then, after the 10 weeks, then the producers, and I was also with David, a producer on this, with J. Todd Harris and Margaret French Isaacs, we all got together, and with John O'Leary too, and watched it together as producers, and then did that cut. And that's when we sent it to Sony, because we'd worked with them before on Soul Surfer, and they loved it and they bought it. And then we went into 8 different versions for the studio cut, because it was much more jumping around, like talk about, you've heard Kill Your Babies, the scenes. I had a scene right at the beginning where we see that they had married and they had 2 little children in the sink giving them a bath. And so at a certain point, we said, we got to cut that scene and get it out of the movie so we could have a more streamlined movie. But we did about 8 versions for Sony. And then we tested like the producer director against the studio cut and learned a lot. Like, again, we're working with the people. And as long as it's not, if it's used to help the cut, I love it. And we did the NRG type screenings where we bring in like 400 people and we tested them and see, what works. And what we found is we take the notes from both sessions. I think the producer's cut did score higher, but there was a lot that we learned from the other one, and then we melded it together. And then I think we got a really high score by the end, in the 90s at least.
Well, we need to wrap up, but I want to tell you, friend, seeing your work over the years and seeing you work in different genres and stuff and everything, I think at this point, I can tell that it's a Sean film. There's a certain energy that you exude that comes through, and this one delivers. So again, thank you for making the film and sharing it with us.
Thank you, Dean. And thank you for coming out on a Saturday afternoon. I appreciate it, you guys. And Frank Merwald, thank you for bringing everybody here today. I know you're responsible for everybody. All right, take care.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.